Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where we delve into the shadows of humanity's darkest deeds. Tonight, we unravel the horrifying tale of Junko Furuta, a case that shook Japan to its core. Here's your clue for tonight. What small object first hinted to authorities that Junko might be nearby? Let's begin. In late 1988, a high school student named Junko Furuta vanished from Misato, Japan. What followed were 44 days of torment that defied belief. She was held captive, brutalized, and ultimately murdered, allegedly by 4 teenage boys. The case sparked national outrage and international disbelief. January 4th, 1989. A chilly afternoon in Koto City. 2 teenage boys were seen loitering near an abandoned construction site. When approached by police regarding a separate case, they reportedly spoke nervously, and something about their answers didn't sit right. The officers continued probing until one of the boys, fearing harsher consequences for a different crime, cracked. What he said next was chilling. He led investigators to a large oil drum, sealed shut, left to rust in the concrete skeleton of an abandoned warehouse. Inside, they found the remains of a young girl. She had been folded unnaturally into the drum, her body bruised, battered, and partially decomposed. The autopsy would later reveal over 400 injuries, from cigarette burns to fractures to mutilation. The victim was identified through dental records as Junko Furuta, a 17-year-old girl reported missing 44 days prior. As news spread, the public's reaction was immediate and visceral. Who could commit such cruelty? And why had no one stopped it? Authorities quickly realized this was no ordinary crime. What they uncovered next would send ripples of horror across the nation and beyond. Junko Furuta was just 17 years old, a high school student from Misato, Saitama Prefecture. She was known to her classmates as quiet, kind, and determined. Unlike some of her peers, Junko avoided parties and focused on school, hoping to land a stable job after graduation. According to her teachers, she was diligent, respectful, always on time. She had just accepted a part-time job at an electronics company, eager to save money for the future. Her dream? A simple, peaceful life, built on her own efforts. Junko had reportedly turned down a date proposal from a local boy affiliated with a known gang. This decision, as harmless as it may seem, allegedly set a horrific chain of events in motion. On November 25th, 1988, Junko never returned home from school. Her disappearance was at first treated as a runaway case, but those who knew her best insisted she wouldn't just leave. By the time authorities realized the gravity of the situation, it was too late. Junko had already entered what many would later call the most brutal documented captivity of modern times. She was not only a victim of physical torture, she became a symbol of systemic failure, where neighbors stayed silent, schools hesitated, and justice, for a time, stalled. Her name would never be forgotten in Japan, not because of who she was taken by, but because of the strength she displayed and the horror she endured. 4 boys were ultimately arrested in connection with Junko's abduction, abuse, and murder. All teenagers, all under the age of 20 at the time. Their names were initially withheld due to Japan's juvenile protection laws, but journalists, outraged by the brutality, later revealed them. The alleged ringleader was Hiroshi Miyano, age 18. Described by former classmates as volatile and aggressive, Hiroshi was reportedly affiliated with the Yakuza Japan's organized crime syndicate. According to reports, after Junko rejected his advances, he vowed to make her pay. Later that same evening, he and his accomplices abducted her. The others involved were Nobuharu Minato, age 16. His home would become the site of Junko's captivity. Alongside him were Shinji Minato, Nobuharu's brother, and Joe Ogura, age 17. Each had prior brushes with the law for assault, theft, or intimidation. Despite being minors, the extent of their crimes stunned the country. Junko was allegedly kept in the Minato home with the full knowledge of some family members. Neighbors later claimed they heard screams, yet no one intervened. What made the case even more disturbing was the routine nature of her abuse. According to court records, the suspects allegedly invited others to witness and participate in her torture, turning her suffering into a spectacle, a secret known by many, but reported by none. The public soon asked, how could this happen for 44 days without anyone stopping it? The nightmare began on November 25th, 1988. According to court documents, Junko Furuta was forcibly taken by Hiroshi Miyano and Joe Ogura. They lured her by claiming to walk her home, then ambushed her, threatening her life. She was taken to an abandoned warehouse, assaulted, and later transported to the Minato residence, where her torture would unfold over 44 relentless days. In that suburban home in Ayase, Tokyo, Junko was allegedly held captive in a room that reeked of mold and cigarette smoke. A television blared in the corner, drowning out muffled cries. The floors were covered in old blankets, stained and stiff from days of neglect. Her captors reportedly beat her daily, punching, kicking, and striking her with metal rods. According to testimony, she was raped hundreds of times, by not only her 4 primary captors, but also by other individuals allegedly invited to witness and participate in her abuse. They burned her with cigarettes and lighters, inserted foreign objects into her body, smashed her fingers with dumbbells until her nails broke off. One night, they poured lighter fluid on her legs and set her on fire. She was often left with no food, forced to drink her own urine or spoiled milk. Her injuries were so severe that she eventually lost the ability to walk. According to police reports, when she attempted to escape once, they caught her and punished her with even more brutality. She begged for death, but they would not allow it. As her body deteriorated, her spirit somehow endured, even after losing her ability to move. Junko is said to have tried to crawl toward the door, but she was dragged back over splintered wood and cold linoleum. On January 4th, after weeks of torment, her captors reportedly challenged her to a game of mahjong. When she won, they beat her in a rage, striking her with a barbell, setting her body alight again. This time she didn't survive. Her body was wrapped in blankets, sealed into a 55-gallon oil drum, and left on a concrete slab. What followed was a discovery that would haunt detectives, journalists, and an entire nation for decades. Even veteran officers reportedly wept at the crime scene. A senior investigator was quoted as saying, "In all my years, I have never seen anything so cruel, so merciless." The question that would echo through every courtroom and headline from that point forward was chillingly simple. How was this allowed to happen for so long, and why did no one stop it? The investigation into Junko Furuta's disappearance was initially slow-moving. She was classified as a runaway, a decision that in hindsight proved costly. But everything changed on January 4th, 1989. Police were questioning Hiroshi Miyano and Joe Ogura in connection with an unrelated assault. During interrogation, Miyano reportedly believed officers had already found Junko's body. So he confessed inadvertently by saying, "So, you found her." Confused, detectives pressed further. Eventually, he revealed the horrifying truth and led them to the oil drum containing Junko's remains. Law enforcement quickly connected the other suspects, securing arrests and search warrants. They discovered bloodstains, torn clothing, and burned tatami mats in the Minato home. However, the trail was cold. Evidence had degraded, and much of the abuse had left psychological scars, rather than visible forensic markers. Still, the confessions and testimonies built a damning case. Forensic experts faced a deeply compromised scene. Junko's body, sealed in an oil drum and hidden for weeks, was severely decomposed. Heat and chemical exposure had broken down much of the physical evidence. Despite this, they recovered trace DNA, bone fractures, and burn patterns consistent with the abuse described in confessions. Still, there were limitations. The Minato house had been cleaned, haphazardly, but enough to challenge forensic reconstruction. There were no fingerprints on key items, no photographs taken by the perpetrators, no surveillance footage. The most damning evidence came from within, the suspects' own words. Their confessions, though partially recanted later, aligned with autopsy findings and corroborated one another. Modern forensic analysts have revisited the case in retrospectives. But with the original crime scene degraded and statutes of limitation affecting certain charges, the path to absolute justice remained blocked. When the details of Junko Furuta's ordeal became public, the nation was shaken to its core. Citizens were outraged, not only by the brutality of the crime, but by the fact that it happened in a quiet residential neighborhood for 44 days, unnoticed or ignored. Vigils were held, letters poured into police stations and media outlets demanding justice. Parents questioned the effectiveness of schools, police, and social systems. The case triggered national conversations about juvenile crime, victim protection, and the limits of privacy laws. Some neighbors, racked with guilt, admitted they'd heard something, but chose silence. Japanese media initially abided by laws that shield juvenile offenders, but outrage over the brutality led Shukan Bunshun, a major publication, to release the suspects' names, claiming they had forfeited their right to anonymity. News outlets covered the case relentlessly. Photos of Junko in her school uniform appeared in headlines, side by side with grim courtroom sketches and crime scene diagrams. The press also uncovered disturbing details, like the fact that police had visited the Minato house during Junko's captivity and left without inspecting it. The media's pressure arguably pushed the justice system to act more aggressively than it might have otherwise. Beyond the 4 arrested teenagers, rumors circulated about additional participants. According to reports, dozens of individuals, possibly over 100, may have known about Junko's captivity. Some were alleged to have visited the house. Others were rumored to have participated in the abuse. But no further charges were filed. Why? Lack of physical evidence, expired limitations, and conflicting testimonies blocked prosecutors from pursuing additional suspects. Theories emerged that local Yakuza influence may have protected certain individuals. Some even claimed that local law enforcement feared retaliation and avoided pressing deeper into the case. In public forums and media retrospectives, these questions still echo. How many people really knew? And how many simply chose to look away? The trial of Hiroshi Miyano and his accomplices began in July of 1989. Due to their age, they were tried as juveniles, sparking public fury. Miyano received a sentence of 20 years, the maximum allowable at the time. Others received lesser terms ranging from 5 to 10 years. In the courtroom, prosecutors read aloud graphic accounts of Junko's final days. Family members wept. Reporters could barely keep composure. None of the defendants were sentenced to life in prison or death. Public outrage surged once again. Over the years, some of the perpetrators were arrested for new crimes, including assault and fraud. Their brief punishments only fueled more anger. To this day, the trial is seen as a landmark failure of justice. Many still argue that the severity of Junko's torture demanded more than the system could deliver. Decades have passed, but questions still linger. How many people truly knew what was happening to Junko? Why did neighbors, classmates, and even police fail to act in time? Despite confessions, there were claims of others present. Individuals never named, never charged. Could more arrests have been made if evidence had been preserved? Or if silence hadn't shielded the guilty? And perhaps the most haunting mystery of all, why did a system designed to protect the vulnerable fail so completely? Junko's case remains one of Japan's most tragic and controversial examples of unchecked cruelty. Junko Furuta's story reshaped how Japan viewed juvenile crime and victim protection. Public outcry influenced debates on the Juvenile Act and discussions about media responsibility. Some schools introduced new support systems. Law enforcement procedures were reevaluated, though many argue reforms didn't go far enough. Culturally, her case became a symbol of innocence lost and silence broken. Artists, filmmakers, and activists have referenced her name, not to sensationalize, but to remember. Her legacy lives on, not through what was done to her, but in what the world demands must never happen again. As we close the chapter on Junko Furuta's story, we ask you, what small object first hinted to authorities that Junko might be nearby? Could a different turn of events have changed everything? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more untold truths behind the crimes that shook the world. As always, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe.